Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Bartók Quartet ensembles, that is, string quartet groups that feature the Bartók quartets. Now, for most of my youth, and I suspect for most of my listeners' youths, the Bartók quartets were considered the acme of 20th century string quartet writing, pieces comparable only to Beethoven's quartets in terms of their rigor and emotional depth and formal perfection. Really, they're extraordinary works. They seem to be a little bit on the outs these days. They're not quite what they were. They've been supplanted, in my opinion, by the Shostakovich quartets. And, of course, you know, there's more than enough room in the universe for quartets by more than one person, and in different styles by different composers. But they're very tough works. They still sound very contemporary. I mean, the 2 early quartets are highly chromatic in Bartók's early sort of chromatic slush style, like we hear in works such as the Miraculous Mandarin and the Wooden Prince and things like that. You know, occasionally a tune pops in, but basically the harmony is acerbic. And then in the last batch of quartets, the last 4, Bartók begins to include folk music influences, but in a very, very modernist and angular kind of way. The most popular of them are, the 4th and 5th quartets, particularly the 4th, which is just an amazing work. He begins to give us things like arch form, 5-movement form with, parallel things with a central something or other, slow movement or scherzo. Anyway, they are extraordinary pieces. And most of the great string quartets in the universe have recorded them, and most of them have done it very well, as is also the case with Shostakovich. I don't think there are any bad Bartók quartet cycles out there. I mean, the music is just too serious, and the technical demands too extreme for anybody who really doesn't have the gumption and the technical facility to play them to, mess them up. I mean, it just doesn't happen. But here are the 5 greatest Bartók quartet ensembles. Hands down, unbelievably fabulous. They are, first, the Végh Quartet, Sándor Végh. Now, they did them twice, a couple of times, and we're talking about their stereo cycle, which features playing that's a little bit more fallible than, earlier versions, but, it's a lot better recorded, for sure. This is, true also of their Beethoven, by the way. But they knew Bartók, and they, have the style in their bones. And there's always in their playing a certain warmth and humanity, which exists really well next to this sort of formal tension that Bartók creates. Bartók can be played in a very cold and mechanical way as well. And these players would never do that. Never in a billion years. They really should be heard by anybody who cares about this music and who think that it's just merely a technical exercise. That's also true of the Keller Quartet. Now, the Keller Quartet was trained by the Végh Quartet, basically. So they are the logical successor. It's almost like hearing the Végh Quartet play the music in really, really good sound with superior technical equipment. They're on Erato. The Végh Quartet is on Valois, Astray, whatever that French thing was called. It changed its name every 5 minutes. But the Keller Quartet is a fabulous, fabulous Bartók quartet cycle that people should hear. It didn't get as much attention, I think, as it probably deserved, because when the Keller Quartet's version came out, the Bartók quartets were a little bit less, popular or getting as much press as they used to. But it's a fabulous, fabulous cycle. Also, the Emerson Quartet. The Emerson Quartet, people like to say, because they say always about American ensembles, and it's such bullshit, that because they're not European, it's all technical, and there's no emotion, and there's no expression, and it's all crap. I mean, it really is. It's such foolishness. We used to hear that. I remember reading in the Penguin Guide, that, American orchestras have this Hollywood technical gloss, this high gloss thing, which is, of course, why the Star Wars soundtrack and all those movie soundtracks were recorded by the London Symphony Orchestra in London, because British orchestras had such warmth. I mean, it's all foolishness. These generalizations, especially when they come, quite frankly, from the European side of the pond, where there's all this sort of nationalist folderol that goes with, particular schools of playing and musicians and instrumentalists. And I put up with it for decades when I was running the Cannes Classical Awards, and I'm thoroughly sick of it, frankly, and it's just not true. Anyway, the Emerson Quartet plays these pieces magnificently. They were famous for doing complete Bartók Quartet cycles and single concerts, which I think is completely insane, and you wouldn't catch me dead going to one of those. I think these pieces should be savored individually, and I think with all due consideration for their seriousness and difficulty. It's like listening to all the Beethoven late quartets at one concert. I mean, it's just pointless. Anyway, but their performances are absolutely superb and beautifully recorded on Deutsche Grammophon. More recently, and more Hungarian, there is the Takács Quartet, a sensational group. They were on Hyperion. First they were on Decca, and then they were on Hyperion. But their Bartók Quartet cycle is possibly the most recent great Bartók Quartet cycle. And they have quite a bit of the Vegh Quartet's feeling of songfulness and warmth, but they again have unbelievable technical equipment. Modern quartets these days play superbly well. And there's people always talk about this trade-off between technical excellence and expressive depth, as if the two are exclusive. You hear the same foolishness in connection with Jascha Heifetz's violin playing. It's so technically perfect, people feel that there can't be any feeling there, that it's all just merely a mechanical manifestation of some sort of, athleticism or something, some knack, but there's no thought and no depth. And, I hate things like that. Oh my God, it's just this laziness in the way people listen and the way people understand how technical excellence can be turned to expressive ends. Anyway, the Takacs Quartet has beautiful technical skills and fabulous expressivity. However, no Bartók Quartet survey would be complete without talking about the Juilliard Quartet. Now, the Juilliard Quartet really put these pieces on the map. They recorded complete Bartók cycles at least 3 times, maybe 4. I don't know. Maybe they're working on 4. These quartets became the ensemble's musical calling cards, and their performances were unbelievably technically proficient. They still are in many respects, but also exciting and passionate and intense, and really, really clean in terms of the playing. And that was sort of a new standard in the 1950s when they started playing these works, because at that time we had groups such as the Hungarian Quartet and the Bartók Quartet and these Central European ensembles who were known for their great warmth but not for their technical finish, especially in this kind of music, in contemporary music. They played it, but when the Juilliard came along and just blew through them, everybody went, wow! And rightly so. And we can still hear them and go, wow! Because they play these pieces with incredible freshness and spontaneity, in addition to technical excellence. And when you have all those qualities combined, well, you're just about where you need to be, right? I mean, isn't that the whole deal? So those are the 5 greatest Bartók Quartet ensembles. You may have a few of your own. I could certainly think of a couple others that I could stick on a short list. So 5 is the limit. Come up with your own list. Don't talk about, well, I'd take out this from yours and put in that one. Just give me a list. It's really easy, folks. Somebody in the comments said, I am continually amazed at the inability of intelligent people to follow simple instructions. These talks have been an absolute clinic in the truthfulness of that observation. People can't count to 5. People don't know how to simply make a list. Just make a list. Got it? Let's see how well we do. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.